Federation of Trade Unions joined a demonstration of Clover workers at the Trade, Industry and Competition offices in Pretoria, which then proceeded to the union buildings. The demonstration is part of a Clover workers' national strike that aims to reiterate the call to Trade and Industry Minister Ibrahim Patel for the divestment of Milco to ensure that the reinstatement of dismissed workers, halt retrenchment at the company and, of course, for the nationalisation of Clover. We've got Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, who joins us now. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. No doubt a very precarious situation that workers are in at the moment, and I'm just wondering the kind of engagement that's been had by departmental officials in that the Department of Trade and Industry as well as Clover to make sure that workers are having their demands met.
Yeah, there have been some discussion between the officials of the TTI, the IDC and the Competition Commission, but we decided to scale up that engagement today, and I was asked by the unions to call the minister directly, which I did. Minister Patel agreed that the government can't idle and do nothing. It have to intervene, and his sympathies are clearly with the workers that are facing a very bleak future, and that we've agreed to talk more tomorrow and Saturday to try and see what the government can do in the context. And the context is this, that the TTI, the government, even the ANC saluted and agreed to the takeover of this company, Clover by Milka, which is a company from Israel, which is operating more sensitively in the occupied land of Palestine, and which clearly misled the Competition Commission authorities. They would have agreed, for example, that there will be no retrenchments for the next 3 years, and that at the most minimum, only less than 300 workers may lose their jobs after that 3 years. And they would have committed to create instead jobs elsewhere in the value chain and in the company to the tune of 500 new jobs. That is not happening. Instead, there is now a slaughter, and 2,000 workers are being killed to join the 12.5 million South Africans who are out of employment, the 77% of our youth that are out of employment, or the over 50% of black people and black women and who are not in any kind of employment. And that's why we're scaling up the campaign against Clover. And that's why we're meeting again tonight as the leadership of Saftu, Kiusa, and FAU to chart a way forward. And part of that way forward will be the intensification of the call for the total boycott of all Clover products, as well as the occupation of the factories that it intends to close down in Lichtenburg, in Frankfurt, and in Heilbronn.
No, absolutely. It just makes me think about the competition tribunal process when these mergers and acquisitions are happening, General Secretary. I mean, as you mentioned, in 2019, when the deal was finalized, it was promised that 550 new jobs would be created over the next 5 years. You've just said that's not happening. Is there a shortcoming in the discussion at the competition tribunal level? Are you, as unions, involved in those discussions, involved in the agreements that are reached for a merger and acquisition to be finalized?
We did. FAO and Kiusa made submission to say oppose this merger. Firstly, as a matter of principle, how does a government that is a product of international solidarity, that have just emerged from the darkest hour in its history under apartheid, which the apartheid that was declared an evil system by the world communities, allow then a company from the occupied territories of Palestine or through the Israeli Zionist invasion, which is totally racist, meant to wipe out the entirety of the population. of Palestine, and you allow that company to invest because you are so desperate for foreign investment. And now we are facing a situation where that foreign investment is turning out to be a total nightmare. I mean, closing a factory in Lichtenberg, Frankfurt, and Hebron, all of them small towns in our country facing immense crisis of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities, with its youth totally robbed of their future. And you call that a good investment by foreign companies. That's not an investment. That's a total invasion into a country that is supposed to be a product of international solidarity. And in a manner that simply takes every meaning away from the government purported support for the Palestinian struggles.
Right. Now, you have indicated that you will be having discussions with the DTI as well as other stakeholders over the next 2 days. You'll be discussing interventions. In your opinion, what should these interventions look like?
First thing, the Competition Commission ought to review and scrap the agreement that it signed with Milco and with this company, to say, but that measure, that whole presentation to Clover was misinformation and was an attempt by this company to pull wool on the eyes of the South Africans. So the first intervention must be to say to Milco, in line with our stated international solidarity and obligations to the Palestinian people, we are asking you to leave. Secondly, must be to say, now that you would have left, we are asking for the reinstatement of all the 2,000 jobs that are being lost in Clover. And thirdly, we must stop the wage cut that amounts to 20% and review the entire decision to change the conditions of work, the shift system, everything, and including this reduction of the support system to the drivers. You know that now drivers are being asked to have only one assistant, and such that the driver will not only do driving, but will also do the offloading, such that workers, by the time they knock off, as somebody said in the march, will be so tired and looking like an old man coming from the Second World War. And we don't want workers to be subjected to such conditions of employment.
No, absolutely. We've run out of time, and of course we'll continue to engage on this issue as it continues to unfold. But I have to ask you, you've seen over the last few days a lot of talk around the country's judiciary, that opinion piece that was penned by Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, subsequently a response coming through from the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Your thoughts on what's currently unfolding, the insults, he says, that were hurled at the judiciary and the Constitution. Do you think that this is a deliberate attack on the country's judiciary and constitution?
It's an attempt to sideline a necessary discussion that we should have as a country as to what we're going to be doing with the first phase of the Zondo Commission report. The people who are implicated in that report are running scared. They are going to use every trick in the book to divert attention from their own deeds that are a betrayal of ordinary people's hopes and dreams whilst feeding their own stomachs. The reality of the situation is that this debate is totally unnecessary. It's a sideshow, as I've said. The real show in South Africa is that 70% of the country's population have passed a vote of no confidence to the ANC and to all political parties. And in our view, that constitutes a major crisis. In just 28 years of democracy, you've got 70% of the population not willing to participate in the electoral system of the country. That's the crisis. The crisis is that the ANC, with all of its sideshows, is no longer a voice of ordinary people, and it is involved in a perpetual battle to eat itself up. And come December, they will finish each other off, and they will finish the dream of Nelson Mandela or Tambo Krisani to build a better life for all of our people. This attack on the judges is totally opportunistic, because what they are doing is to use existing grievances of the people that they have sidelined through implementing of the pro-business, pro-capital, neoliberal austerity programs. And now that people have issues against the courts, because the courts have never worked for ordinary people. The court is the terrain of the moneyed class, including themselves, not for ordinary people. So they use that grievance now to say the courts are not good. The constitution that they actively put in place themselves is not good. And suddenly they're realizing that our people have no land. But they've been given an opportunity for 28 years to amend, to correct all of the wrongs of the apartheid era. For 28 years, they've sat quietly doing nothing. Not once did any Lindiwe Sisulu throw her weight with the plight of the workers. And we have been battling neoliberalism and programs that are the anti-poor programs coming from the government that she has been part of. Now she's sidelining the issues that workers are out in the streets championing in order to have a non-debate about a supposedly captured judiciary. And we're saying that not because the judiciary doesn't have problems. Of course, the judiciary is an instrument of a class rule. We are living in a bourgeoisie environment state, which she is driving.
No, absolutely. Many thanks for those insights. Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi there speaking to us about the developments around the Clover strike, and then also weighing in on this issue around the alleged attack on the judiciary and the country's constitution.